Hello and welcome to Understanding Narcissists. Thank you so much for joining me. In this episode, I want to talk about emotional desolation and to some extent isolation. They kind of go hand in hand. Emotional desolation is one of those things that's sort of difficult to talk about because it's so abstract. And while I wouldn't call it vague because you can kind of put your finger on it, I think what helps sort of carry the topic forward is that you and probably everyone watching this video has experienced emotional desolation to some degree. Emotional desolation really is a part of the environment that a narcissist produces. So it's kind of a product. Like, I don't want to say that in and of itself it is the environment, because it really is a tool they use to injure you, but it's also a result of the injury. And so that can also make it a little hard to pin down. That's why I tend to think of it as an experience. An experience that is brought on when you're around narcissists. A necessary experience. Not necessarily an exclusive experience, though. I think a lot of people can do this and bring this on in different forms. Different abusive people do this. But with a narcissist, it does have to be there. And whether it begins with them, they transfer it onto you, or they simply create this environment that makes you feel this way, or if it's just all the above, emotional desolation is essentially a removal of all the breathable air in the room. So when we communicate, when we talk, the conveyance, what we're transmitting between each other, in some ways emotions and our intentions, our expression, and how we feel. Narcissists have to have control of that some way or another. And they're able to do that by essentially eroding this natural human right of expression. They can do it in typical ways, the typical means of maybe trying to censor what you can say and what is legitimate. And that more has to do with your words. And it can be topical, what you can talk about, what you can't, how you can look at it, what the narrative is. But at a much higher level, or a more base level, a more primal level, they really control the emotions in the room and what is allowed to be felt and what is allowed to be experienced and recognized as legitimate or not. And through this method, they are able to rob you of your own humanity to an extent. At least that's the experience to me and people I've talked to, and maybe to you. The result is emotional desolation, and that is the state where the emotional medium that you use to express yourself and communicate with other people is removed or depreciated or deprecated in some sense. It's no longer viable. It's not something you use. And it sort of works back to you to where you start to lose your identity. You start to feel less and less like a person. If I can say that. Because that's how it feels. But to say such a thing is really difficult to properly describe what it's like. It's natural to narcissists to bring about this environment and convey this feeling to you. It is a feeling in and of itself. So maybe my description of it, removing all emotions to some degree, is inaccurate because it's all emotional. It's all an assault on your sense of self and being and what you're allowed to do and really what you're allowed to think. It's probably the most effective method of subjugation I've ever seen. In a sense, it's part of the narcissist's sort of illusion, not really explicitly, because it's not something they're going to be talking about. It's not a part of their image. But it really is the narcissist at their most sophisticated, because it is entirely invisible, yet everybody feels it, and it's so effective in controlling people that it puts everything else to shame in how effective it is. It requires a certain degree of inculcation on your part, really indoctrination into the narcissist's world. And so they have to work on you to really get you to this point. It's also, unfortunately, the most destructive thing, because it's probably the thing in recovery that is holding you back the most. This is the kind of traumatic, even if there's no traumatic event in and of itself, it sticks around with you for a very, very long time, maybe forever. Not that you can't get rid of it or lessen it, but it's something you're going to be dealing with. It's really like an infection that warps everything you see and how you see it and how you feel about things, your association with things. This is really the heart of the narcissist's malice and really bad intentions. This is kind of the result they want to achieve. And as I alluded to earlier, I think what's most disturbing about it when you begin to recognize it is how natural it is for them. It's also a very good reflection into their own world and their minds and how they experience things. Because there's a lot of deprivation going on. I've talked about how narcissists erect rules that don't apply to them and only apply to you, and they can essentially do what they want. But their needs aren't the same as yours, as you'll notice. It's not so simple that you're two people and you want certain things and they want certain things, and you can take that as being symmetrical somehow. That's part of the problem I've run into in describing narcissists, is I don't believe or try to teach that they're subhuman at all. But in order to understand them, you have to regard them differently than you do other people, because their needs and desires and their whims and their maybe even their dreams, their fantasies are so different from other people. Is it a fundamental difference? I don't know. I think it's developmental. They just didn't get beyond a certain point emotionally. And so this emotional desolation really sits pretty and tidy with them. They don't have much problem with it. They really just need to have people look at them a certain way and believe things about them. They don't really need to express themselves per se in the same way that you do. And that's what emotional desolation is. Fundamentally breaking down how you feel and express yourself. And I'm using the word express and not communicate, because communication is a part of it, but it's really how you convey yourself to other people and actualize and have the ability, maintain the ability to recognize your own self-worth and value and feel good about yourself. That's what they're removing. To the point where the only sustenance you can get, the only validation you can get, is not through yourself or any kind of self-love or any kind of personal endeavor, something that makes you happy and fulfills you, but through them and through their illusion and environment. Emotional desolation is also kind of the last stage of the narcissist's abuse, to a point that is, this is really the worst that it gets. It's not that it can't get even worse, but this is kind of when they have complete and total control, supposedly. Because I've seen plenty of people, myself included, pull out of that environment completely. And so you do get away. The idea that you're going to be stuck with them forever is kind of an illusion within itself. Yes, plenty of people do stay with narcissists forever, but that doesn't mean that they can't find a way out or that it's impossible to. There might be something with them going on that makes it really, really difficult for them to recognize. But by and large, I find that's, I won't say it's unusual, but it's certainly not a majority. And so that's really good news. And so this void, this emotional desolation, I don't know what it serves exactly to you knowing it. I don't know how that helps you a great deal. I thought of this topic a while ago. I'm sure I've mentioned it. And I guess I had a hard time figuring out where it was supposed to go, where I fit it into everything. But it's just a reality. And all the emotional dysfunction that goes on from beginning to end and beyond with a narcissist, it's all emotional. Hard to describe, but easy to relate to the experience because everybody has it. Everybody has that insecurity and that vulnerability, especially when you're targeted by narcissists. They target you for that very reason and the purpose of making you their emotional slave. And that's what they get from you. A lot of validation and support, even if superficial. That's all they really want. That's the environment in their mind that they have to sort of project everywhere. That's what they impose onto you and use to control you. It really is the medium that you interact with them through. And of course, you interact with everybody on that basis, I believe, for the most part. But with a narcissist, it's a void. And they're they're a black hole. And it's a very difficult thing to share with them in any meaningful way. They're always taking from you. And I think it's a worthwhile topic to talk about because it is kind of the end game, the end state. And a lot of people come to me in that state, but still having made the realization that they are in trouble. And so there's a lot of hope there still, even when it feels like there isn't. And I sort of just want to offer that positive message of support and hope that maybe it helps you or someone you know or someone else or all of you to take a step forward in engaging emotionally again. And often that means getting away from the narcissist and overcoming them so you don't have to live that way anymore and you don't have to experience this awful dread that really doesn't have anything to do with you. The narcissist makes you think it's you, but it's really not. It's really something they've produced, given, made you experience, and to control and really transform you, but it's not that hopeless. It just appears that way because it feels so bad. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Like it if you do. Share it with somebody you think might benefit from it. Comment in the comment section below about your experience with this, which I'm sure there are plenty, and I would like to hear it. I'm sure others would like to hear it. This topic of emotional desolation and abuse. And spill it all out. Don't spare us any details unless you really want to keep them confidential. that's fine, and stay private. But share what you want to share. Thank you so much for sharing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next episode. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.